Right now, your brain is running on empty and you don't even know it. That feeling when someone asks what you want for dinner and you genuinely want to cry, that's not weakness. That's your mind waving a white flag after making thousands of tiny choices you didn't even register. By the end of this video, you'll understand why you freeze when life gives you too many options, and more importantly, you'll learn a single technique that can break you out of paralysis in under 60 seconds. Because the exhaustion you're feeling isn't permanent. It's just a signal that you've been using a mental resource you didn't know could run out. There's a specific kind of exhaustion that has nothing to do with how much you slept last night. It creeps in quietly, building throughout the day, and most people never connect the dots. Every time you choose what to eat, what to wear, which email to answer first, or whether to take that phone call, you're making a withdrawal from an account you can't see. Think of it like this. Your ability to make good choices works exactly like a phone battery. You start the day at 100%, fully charged, sharp, capable of handling complex problems. But every single decision, no matter how small, drains a little bit of power. By mid-afternoon, you're at 30%. By evening, you're in low-power mode, and suddenly the simplest question feels impossibly heavy. This is decision fatigue. It's not laziness, it's not you being difficult or indecisive. It's a psychological reality where the sheer volume of choices depletes your actual cognitive resources. Your brain's command center for planning, focus, and self-control literally gets tired. And here's what makes it so dangerous. You don't usually feel it happening until you're already stuck. The real problem? We live in a world that demands infinite decisions from a mind with finite capacity. 50 years ago, people had maybe a dozen types of cereal to choose from. Now there are entire aisles. You used to watch whatever was on TV. Now you scroll through thousands of options and end up watching nothing. The world expanded. Your brain's capacity didn't. Here's something strange. Having more options was supposed to make life better. More freedom. More control. More happiness. But a psychologist named Barry Schwartz discovered something nobody expected. He called it the paradox of choice, and it explains why abundance makes us miserable. When you have 2 or 3 options, choosing feels good. You can easily compare them, pick one, and move on. But when you have 20 options, 50, your brain has to work exponentially harder. You start comparing every feature, imagining every possible outcome, calculating what you might be giving up. It's like trying to run a marathon on a treadmill. Massive effort, no progress. This shows up everywhere. You stand in the grocery store, staring at 18 different kinds of milk, and your mind just stops. You open a streaming service to relax, but after 15 minutes of scrolling, you feel more stressed than when you started. You're not broken. You're experiencing cognitive overload in real time. And here's where it gets worse. When you finally do make a choice, you don't feel relief. You feel regret. Because in the back of your mind, there's this nagging voice asking, but what if one of those other 17 options was better? The very abundance that promised freedom becomes a prison. Studies have shown this in measurable ways. When companies offered employees more retirement plan options, fewer people enrolled. Not because they didn't want to save for retirement, but because the number of choices was so overwhelming that doing nothing felt easier than deciding. That's the paradox. More choice doesn't lead to better decisions. It leads to no decision at all. Not everyone experiences this the same way. There are 2 types of people, and understanding which one you are changes everything. First, there are the maximizers. These are people who need to find the absolute best possible option. They research exhaustively, they compare every detail, they read every review. They're haunted by the possibility that somewhere out there is a better choice they missed. They ask themselves, is this the best I can possibly do? And that question never stops echoing. Maximizers burn through their mental battery faster than anyone else. Because they're not just making a decision, they're trying to make a perfect decision. And perfection requires endless deliberation. Then there are the satisficers. They're looking for something different, not the best, just good enough. They set a few core criteria, and the moment they find something that meets those standards, they stop searching. Their question is simple. Does this work for me? If the answer is yes, they're done. Satisficers conserve energy. They make decisions faster. And here's the interesting part. They report being happier with their choices. Not because they picked out better options, but because they didn't torture themselves wondering about all the paths they didn't take. Most of us are a mix of both. But if you find yourself constantly exhausted by decisions, chances are you're leaning toward the maximizer side. And that's not a character flaw. It's just a specific strategy your brain uses. A strategy that costs more energy than you can afford to spend. So how do you know when your battery is dead? The signs are everywhere once you know what to look for. The most obvious one is avoidance. You put things off. Not because you're lazy, but because the mental effort of making even a small choice feels unbearable. You leave emails unanswered. You delay booking that appointment. You say, I'll figure it out tomorrow because tomorrow you might have more energy. Spoiler, tomorrow you probably won't. Then there's impulsivity. This is the flip side of avoidance, and it's just as revealing. At the end of a long day, when your mental battery is drained, your self-control disappears. This is why you break your diet at 9 p.m. Why you make impulse purchases late at night. Why grocery stores put candy at the checkout. They know you've been making decisions for the last hour, and by the time you reach the register, your resistance is gone. You also start to feel foggy. Thoughts become slippery. You forget what you were about to say mid-sentence. Names vanish from your memory. You get distracted by everything and nothing. It's like trying to think through a heavy cloud, an irritability. Suddenly, the smallest things set you off. Someone asks you a simple question and you snap. Not because you're a bad person, but because you have zero capacity left to process one more thing. Your mind is full. There's no room for even the tiniest additional demand. Some people even feel it physically. Headaches, eye twitching, nausea, tension in the body. Because mental stress doesn't stay in your head. It spills over into everything. All of this creates a vicious cycle. Fatigue leads to poor choices. Poor choices create more problems. More problems require more decisions. And suddenly you're trapped in a loop that keeps draining you faster and faster. There's actual science behind why this happens, and it's both fascinating and a little unsettling. A psychologist named Roy Baumeister ran a series of experiments that changed how we understand self-control. The most famous one is beautifully simple. He brought students into a room filled with the smell of freshly baked chocolate chip cookies. He put plates of warm cookies on the table, then he divided them into two groups. Group 1 was told, eat the cookies, enjoy yourselves. Group 2 was told, you can only eat these radishes. The cookies are off limits. For Group 2, this took effort, real, measurable self-control. Resisting something delicious while it's sitting right in front of you is hard. Immediately after, both groups were given an impossible puzzle to solve. The researchers didn't tell them it was impossible. They just watched to see how long each group would persist before giving up. The cookie eaters worked on the puzzle for an average of 19 minutes, but the radish eaters, they quit after 8 minutes. They gave up more than twice as fast. Here's why that matters. The same resource you use to resist a cookie is the same resource you use to persist through frustration, to focus on a difficult task, to be patient with people, to make thoughtful choices. There isn't a separate tank for work decisions and personal decisions. It's all one tank, and when it's empty, everything suffers. This is called ego depletion. Every act of self-control, every decision, every moment of resisting temptation draws from the same limited well. And once that well runs dry, you can't just push through. Your brain literally doesn't have the fuel. Now, scientists are still debating the exact mechanics of how this works. Some think it's about actual resource depletion. Others think it's about shifting motivation. But the experience? The experience is universal. After a day of difficult decisions, you don't have the same capacity you had in the morning. That's not up for debate. So what do you do when you're frozen? When the number of options is so overwhelming that your brain just shuts down completely, you need an emergency intervention, something that works in the moment when you're already stuck. That's where the two-choice reset comes in. This technique uses strategic simplification to break the paralysis. It's not about ignoring complexity forever. It's about using a temporary shortcut to escape the trap. 4 steps. Takes less than a minute. Step 1. Acknowledge the stuck. Stop trying to push through. Just pause. Say out loud or in your head, I'm stuck. That's it. No judgment, no shame, just acknowledgement. This interrupts the cycle of spinning your wheels and creates space for a new approach. Step 2. Isolate the goal. Ask yourself one simple question. What's the most important thing I need to accomplish right now? Not in the next hour, not by the end of the day, right now. This cuts through all the noise and reconnects you with your actual objective. Let's say you're standing in your garage. It's a disaster. You've been staring at it for 20 minutes, completely paralyzed by where to start. Your goal isn't to have a perfect garage in the next 5 minutes. Your goal is simply to start the process. Step 3. Frame the binary. This is the core of the reset. Deliberately limit your next action to exactly 2 options. Not 3, not 5. 2. Make them simple. Make them concrete. Make them small. Your 2 choices might be fill 1 trash bag with obvious garbage, or move all the bikes to 1 corner. That's it. No other possibilities exist in this moment. Step 4. Commit and move. Pick one, doesn't matter which. Often, there's no right answer, and trying to find one just puts you back in the loop. So choose arbitrarily if you have to, then immediately take the smallest possible physical action. Pick up one piece of trash, touch one bike. Action creates momentum, and momentum breaks paralysis. The beauty of this technique is that it works because it removes the thing that was breaking you. Too many options. By artificially constraining the field, you make the decision manageable again. Your brain can handle 2 choices. It cannot handle 47. The 2-choice reset is for emergencies, but if you want to stop hitting that wall in the first place, you need to conserve energy before it runs out. The most powerful long-term strategy is simple: embrace good enough. Not for everything, but for the 1,000 tiny decisions that don't actually matter. The brand of paper towels, the color of your socks, the exact wording of a casual text message. These things don't need optimization. They need a decision and movement. Create routines. Put recurring choices on autopilot. Wear the same thing every day if it helps. Eat the same breakfast. Do laundry on Tuesdays. Routines aren't boring. They're liberating. Because they free up your decision-making capacity for things that actually matter. And protect your peak hours. Make your biggest, most important decisions in the morning when your battery is full. Save the trivial stuff for later. Your brain doesn't have unlimited capacity. Use it strategically. Decision fatigue isn't a life sentence. It's a signal. A sign that you've been asking too much of a limited resource. The moment you recognize it, you can manage it. You can simplify. You can automate. And when you're frozen in the moment, you can reset. You're not indecisive. You're not weak. You're just human. And humans have limits. The trick is knowing when you've hit yours and having a plan to step back from the edge. So here's my question for you. What's one decision you've been avoiding that you could simplify down to just 2 choices? Drop it in the comments. Let's break some paralysis together.